You're standing in line at a coffee shop. Your order won't be ready for 90 seconds, but your hand is already moving. You pull out your phone, unlock it, and start scrolling through nothing in particular. You're not waiting for a message. You're not checking the time. You're just filling the gap. This is the psychology of people who never put their phone down. And most of the time, it's not about the phone itself. It's about avoidance. Because what you're doing in that moment isn't really connecting with the world. It's disconnecting from yourself. And there's a reason silence can feel so uncomfortable that you'd rather stare at strangers' vacation photos than sit with your own thoughts for 90 seconds. Let's talk about what that reflex is actually protecting you from. Picture this. You wake up. Before you're fully conscious, before you've registered where you are or what day it is, your hand reaches for your phone. You tell yourself you're checking the time. But what you're really doing is importing someone else's urgency into your morning so you don't have to face the blank slate of your own day. This is pattern 1, the morning reach. Here's why it happens. Your mind, in those first few seconds of waking, is unstructured. There's no script yet, no agenda, just you and an open moment. So you grab the phone, you scroll, you let the feed choose your first emotion for you. And within 30 seconds, you've avoided the most important question of the day. What do I actually want? The cost is immediate. You forget what you felt before you looked. You lose access to your own inner compass. And by the time you're out of bed, you're already living someone else's priorities. But here's the twist. What you might be protecting yourself from isn't laziness or boredom. It's clarity, because clarity sometimes forces a decision you've been postponing. Now watch what happens when you're waiting. You're in a lobby, a parking lot, a checkout line, anywhere life asks you to pause for more than 10 seconds. And the reflex kicks in again. This is pattern 2, the waiting escape. And it reveals something critical. A lot of the time, you're not bored, you're coming down from constant input. Your brain has been trained to expect stimulation on demand, and when the input stops, it gets restless. Silence feels like something is missing, so you reach for the phone not because there's something to see, but because there's something you don't want to feel. The concrete cost? You can't finish a thought. Your attention span gets chopped into 10-second intervals. You start thinking about something real, something that matters, and within moments you've interrupted yourself with a scroll. You trade depth for distraction, and over time, you lose the ability to sit with uncertainty, to let ideas develop, to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing. What you're protecting is the illusion of control, because if you're always consuming, always reacting, you never have to face the quiet truth that you don't know what to do next. Here's a pattern you've probably noticed without naming it. You're having a conversation. Someone is talking to you. In mid-sentence, your hand drifts to your pocket. You glance down. You check. You're still nodding, still making eye contact, but you're not fully there. This is pattern 3, the phantom check. And most people miss what triggers it. You're not checking because something pinged. You're checking because the moment got slightly uncomfortable. Maybe they asked you something you don't want to answer. Maybe the silence stretched too long. Maybe they shared something vulnerable and you don't know what to say. So you create an exit. The cost is connection. You don't remember conversations. You miss emotional cues. People stop sharing with you because they can feel you're not present. And over time, you train yourself to associate human interaction with discomfort and the phone with relief. What you're avoiding isn't people. It's being seen. Because being seen means someone might notice what you've been trying to keep hidden. Now let's talk about bedtime. You're lying there. The lights are off. Your body is tired. But you're scrolling. One more video. One more post. One more meaningless refresh of a feed that hasn't changed in 2 minutes. This is pattern 4, the pre-sleep stall. Here's what's happening. Sleep means letting go. It means surrendering control for a while. And before you can do that, your mind wants one last buffer between consciousness and rest. You're not looking for entertainment. You're delaying the moment when you're alone with the day you just lived. The cost is rest. You don't sleep well. You wake up foggy. And more importantly, you never process the day. You don't give your brain the quiet it needs to sort through emotions, to file memories where they belong, to let go of what doesn't serve you. You end up carrying unprocessed weight because you won't give yourself enough silence to set it down. What you're avoiding is reflection, because reflection means feeling what actually happened today, and some of it might sting. Now here's the pattern that quietly ruins your ability to build anything. You sit down to do something. Work, read, cook, anything that requires sustained focus. And within 3 minutes, you're back on the phone. You didn't plan to check. You just did. This is pattern 5, the task escape, and it reveals something about how you relate to effort. The moment something gets difficult, the moment you hit friction, boredom, or confusion, you reach for the phone. Not because you're weak, because you've trained your brain to associate discomfort with an instant exit. The concrete cost is completion. You don't finish things. You start books you never read. You begin projects you abandon. You lose the capacity for deep work, for flow, for the satisfaction that comes from pushing through resistance. And over time, you stop trusting yourself to commit to anything hard. What you're protecting is the fantasy that life should always feel easy. Because if you admit that growth requires discomfort, you'd have to stop running from it. And here's the final pattern, the one that ties everything together. You're facing a decision, something you've been putting off, a conversation you need to have, a change you need to make, a truth you need to confront. And instead of sitting with the weight of that choice, you open the phone. This is pattern 6, the avoidance scroll. This is where the real cost lives. Because every time you reach for the phone instead of facing a decision, you train yourself to defer. Not now. Later. When I'm ready. But later doesn't solve it. The decision doesn't go away. It just stays open in the background, adding to the low-level stress you keep trying to outrun. The cost is agency. You let life happen to you instead of choosing how you want to live it. Most people miss this. They think the phone is the problem. But the phone is just the tool. What you're really avoiding is the discomfort of being responsible for your own life. So here's the reveal, the thing you've been running from. It's not boredom. It's not even loneliness. It's self-judgment. It's the fear that if you sit with yourself in silence, with no distraction, you'll have to face the gap between who you are and who you want to be. You'll have to acknowledge the things you're not doing, the choices you're avoiding, the life you keep postponing. And that feels heavy. So you fill every gap with noise. You stay stimulated. You keep moving. You never stop long enough to hear what you actually think. Here's what you can do about it. 2 simple actions and 1 replacement habit. First, set a waiting rule. Every time you're waiting for something, coffee, elevator, checkout, resist the reach for 60 seconds. Just stand there. Notice the urge. Don't fight it. Observe it. You're not trying to fix your whole life in 60 seconds. You're rebuilding tolerance for your own presence. Second, create a morning gap. Before you check your phone, sit for 3 minutes. No meditation. No rules. Just sit. Notice what comes up. Let your mind wander. Give yourself permission to be unproductive. Now the replacement habit. Choose 3 intentional check-in windows per day, morning, midday, evening. Outside those windows, if you feel the reflex to check, delay it by 30 seconds and ask 1 question. What am I trying not to feel right now? And here's your sentence script. When you feel the reflex to check, say this. I can handle this moment without input. Remember that coffee shop? That 90-second wait? Next time your order isn't ready, leave your phone in your pocket. Stand there. Look around. Notice how strange it feels to just exist without a task. Notice the urge to fill the gap. And then notice what happens when you don't. Because that's where life actually is. Not in the scroll. In the gaps. What was 1 moment today where you caught yourself reaching? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more psychology that explains the quiet things you do and shows you what they're really protecting, subscribe. We're building something calm here. Take care of your attention. It's one of the only things that's actually yours.